Welcome back to Revenge Blaze, the channel dedicated to powerful real-life stories of family drama, tough choices, hidden truths, and the consequences that follow. Thank you so much for joining us today. Your support means everything and keeps these stories coming. If you're new here, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. We've got some incredible tales lined up, and trust me, you don't want to leave. The next one is going to be just as gripping and emotional. Stick around. Without further delay, here is today's story. Abandoned billion-dollar deal to help homeless mom. 7 months later, shocking truth at my forest lodge. Rushing through Union Station in Portland, briefcase clutched tight, I was seconds from boarding the high-speed train to Seattle. That train carried the biggest corporate merger deal of my life, a billion-dollar negotiation that would secure my company's future for decades. 4 months of nonstop talks, high stakes, no room for error. My heart hammered. I couldn't miss it. Then I saw her. A beautiful young woman, late 20s, sitting alone on the cold platform bench with an adorable baby boy cradled against her chest. The child looked about one, chubby cheeks flushed from the chill, wrapped in a thin blanket that did nothing against the damp Oregon air. She rocked him gently, eyes down, face drawn with quiet exhaustion, but there was a dignity in her posture that stopped me dead. I should have kept moving. The boarding call echoed overhead. Hundreds of jobs, my entire legacy depended on that train, but my feet wouldn't budge. I walked over. "Is everything okay?" I asked softly. She lifted her gaze, large, weary eyes that held no expectation of kindness. "We'll manage," she murmured, tightening her hold on the baby as he stirred. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the keys to my forest lodge up in the Oregon Cascades. A big timber home secluded among towering pines, completely empty while I was gone. I held them toward her. "I'm heading out for business, 4 months, maybe more. The place is vacant. Stay there. Heat, food, beds, everything you need is inside. Use whatever you want." She stared at the keys like they might vanish. "Why? Why would you give this to a stranger?" "Because right now you and your little boy need a roof," I said. "And I have to believe that if someone I loved was ever this lost, someone would stop and help." Her hands shook as she took them. "My name is Ellie Navarro," she whispered. "This is Juniper." I quickly called my driver, Sean Black. "Pick them up at the station entrance. Get them to the lodge, buy whatever they need. Groceries, clothes, baby supplies. Make sure they're settled." Sean didn't question it. He just said, "On my way, Ms. Torres." I barely made a later train. The original one pulled out without me. That missed connection cost precious hours, but the deal was still alive. What was supposed to be 4 months turned into 7 long, grueling months. The other side kept changing terms, demanding more guarantees, dragging every clause through endless revisions. I fought through exhaustion, closed the merger, saved the company, expanded everything I'd built. When I finally flew back to Portland victorious but drained, I didn't go home first. I drove straight to the forest lodge. The moment I stepped inside, the air felt different, warm, lived in, full of small sounds, toys scattered across the rug, fresh coffee scent, laughter drifting from the back porch. I walked out and my knees nearly buckled. There in the rocking chair overlooking the pines sat my mother, Agnes. My mother, who had disappeared without a trace 7 months ago. She was smiling softly, bouncing little Juniper on her knee, pointing at the trees as if telling him a story. She looked peaceful, healthy, happy. She turned her head toward me, and her eyes held only mild curiosity. No recognition, none at all. In that single heartbeat, everything I thought I knew collapsed. Everything had disappeared. It was horrible. If this story already has you on the edge, wondering how a simple act of kindness could unravel an entire life, hit that like button right now and subscribe so you don't miss the full twist. New real-life drama drops every day. Turn on notifications and join us. Let's see how many hearts are racing with me tonight. Drop your city and the time in the comments. I read everyone. Layla Torres had spent the last 25 years building her merger and acquisition firm into one of the most respected boutique players on the West Coast. Headquartered in a sleek glass building downtown Portland, the company specialized in high-stakes deals, tech startups folding into larger conglomerates, family-owned manufacturers swallowed by private equity cross-state expansions that reshaped entire industries. At 52, she was the name people whispered in boardrooms when they needed someone who could spot value in chaos and close before the other side blinked. Her days started at 5:30 with black coffee and a scan of overnight filings, then moved straight into strategy calls, due diligence reviews, and endless negotiation prep. Evenings rarely ended before 10. Weekends were for catching up on what the week had left behind. The rhythm had become her armor, predictable, controllable, safe. No surprises, no emotional loose ends. The house she shared with her mother in the West Hills was large, quiet, and expensive. Floor-to-ceiling windows looked out over the city lights, but the view felt more like a backdrop than a home. Layla rarely sat in the living room unless she was reviewing term sheets on her laptop. The kitchen saw more takeout containers than cooked meals. Most nights she ate standing at the island scrolling emails while Agnes watched health segments on the television in the next room. Agnes Torres had moved in permanently after her husband passed 15 years earlier. At 78, she was still sharp, still opinionated, still convinced she knew what was best for her only daughter. She had never worked outside the home after marriage, but she ran the household with the same quiet authority she had once used to manage family decisions. That authority had extended decades ago to Layla's personal life. Back when Layla was 25, fresh out of law school and full of plans, she had fallen hard for a man named Daniel. He was kind, ambitious in his own quiet way, studying to become a civil engineer. They talked about a future small apartment in the Pearl District, weekends hiking the gorge, maybe kids someday. Agnes and Layla's father had seen it differently. "He's nice, but he's not enough," Agnes had said one evening over dinner. "You're going to run this family business one day. You need someone who matches that level. Someone who won't hold you back." Layla's father had nodded in agreement. They painted a picture of missed opportunities, of settling, of regret. The pressure built slowly until Layla ended it herself, convinced she was protecting her future. There had been others after Daniel, men her parents approved of at first, then found flaws in. Too aggressive, too laid back, wrong family background, wrong timing. Each time the verdict came down the same: not good enough. Layla listened, argued less each year, and eventually stopped bringing anyone home. By the time the company passed fully to her after her father's death, dating felt like another negotiation she didn't have energy for. Now at 52, she had no husband, no children, no grandchildren for Agnes to spoil. The house echoed with that absence every evening. Agnes never let it go unspoken. "You're working yourself into the ground again," Agnes would say, as Layla walked in after 9 heels clicking on hardwood. "When are you going to stop and breathe? When are you going to think about yourself instead of spreadsheets?" Layla usually poured a glass of Pinot Noir, leaned against the counter, and answered with the same tired deflection. "The deal closes next quarter. After that, maybe." But lately, the answers had sharpened. Tonight had been different. Colton, her younger brother, lived in San Diego with his wife and 2 teenage sons. He called once a month, mostly to check on Agnes, rarely to talk business. He had walked away from the firm early, choosing real estate instead. Steady commissions weekends, free family dinners. Layla envied the simplicity sometimes, though she would never admit it. Colton had always been the one who got to live without the weight of the family legacy on his shoulders. He had sided with their parents back then, too. "They're just looking out for you," he'd told her after the breakup with Daniel. "You'll thank them later." Layla had never thanked anyone. The resentment had settled deep, quiet, but constant, like background noise she learned to ignore until it grew too loud. Agnes kept pushing. Every conversation circled back to the same points: Layla's single status, her endless hours, the grandchildren she would never give her. Agnes framed it as concern, but it landed like accusation. Layla felt the old wound reopen every time. She had tried explaining once, years ago. Mom, you and Dad made the choices for me. You decided who was worthy and who wasn't. Now I'm 52, and I have nothing but a company and a house that feels empty. Agnes had looked hurt. We wanted the best for you. We built something real. You think that was easy? The argument never resolved. It just paused, waiting for the next trigger. That evening, after another 14-hour day of prepping term sheets and fielding calls from anxious partners, Layla came home to find Agnes already at the kitchen table. Tea gone cold, eyes fixed on the television, but not really watching. "You're late again," Agnes said without turning. Layla set her briefcase down harder than necessary. It was a long day. Every day is long. When does it stop being long? Layla opened the wine cabinet, pulled out a bottle, poured a generous glass. When the merger closes? When the company is safe? When I don't have to worry about 200 people losing their jobs if I slip up? Agnes finally looked at her. And after that, another merger. Another excuse. Layla took a long sip, felt the burn steady her. Maybe. That's the job. That's not a life, Layla. That's a sentence. The words hit harder than usual. Layla set the glass down. You know what, Mama? Maybe it is. But whose fault is that, yours and Dad's? You two made sure I never had the chance to build anything else. You chased away every man who wasn't perfect in your eyes. You told me I deserved better, then made sure I got nothing at all. Agnes straightened. We protected you. Protected me? Layla's voice rose. You controlled me. You decided my future because you thought you knew better. And now here I am, successful, rich, alone. No family of my own. No one to come home to except you, reminding me every single day what I don't have. Agnes pressed her lips thin. Don't blame us for your choices. I do blame you. Layla said the words spilling out faster now. I blame you for making me think love was a risk I couldn't afford. I blame you for turning every relationship into a transaction. And I blame myself for listening. Silence stretched between them, thick and heavy. Agnes stood deliberately. You're tired. Go to bed. Layla laughed, bitter and short. Yeah, I'm tired. Of all of it. She turned and walked upstairs without another word. Behind her, the kitchen light stayed on. Agnes didn't move. Layla closed her bedroom door, leaned against it, and stared at the ceiling. The merger was tomorrow's train. The argument was tonight's weight. She had no idea how much heavier both would become in the morning. The argument that night didn't start with raised voices. It started the way most of them did, quiet, familiar, inevitable. Layla had come home earlier than usual, around 8, because the final due diligence packet had arrived and she needed quiet to review it. She dropped her coat on the hall chair, kicked off her shoes, and headed straight for the study. Agnes was already in the kitchen, the television on low, a half-finished cup of chamomile cooling on the table. Layla passed the doorway without stopping, but Agnes's voice followed her anyway. You didn't eat dinner again. I grabbed something at the office, Layla called back, not slowing. That's not food. That's fuel. Layla paused at the study door, hand on the knob. She could have kept walking. She should have. But the day had been long, partners nitpicking every line in the merger agreement, Colton texting earlier to say he was too busy to check on Mom this week, and the familiar jab landed harder than usual. She turned. Mom, I'm not hungry. I have work. Agnes rose from the table, gradual but deliberate. Work. Always work. You think that's going to keep you warm at night when you're 60? Layla felt the old irritation flare. I'm not having this conversation again. You never have it. That's the problem. Agnes stepped into the hallway, arms crossed. You run from everything that matters. From people. From life. Layla laughed once, sharp and short. You want to talk about running? Look who's talking. You've spent 30 years telling me who I should and shouldn't love, and now you're surprised I'm alone. Agnes's face tightened. We never told you not to love. We told you to choose wisely. Wisely. Layla stepped closer, voice low but edged. You mean choose someone who wouldn't embarrass the family name? Someone who'd fit in the boardroom photo. Someone Dad could brag about at the club. Not Daniel. Not Mark. Not anyone who actually saw me instead of the company. Agnes flinched at the names but recovered quickly. Daniel was a boy with dreams and no plan. Mark wanted your money more than he wanted you. We saw it. You didn't. I saw plenty, Layla said. I saw my own mother and father deciding my future like it was a board vote. I saw you two sit me down at 25 and list every reason why I wasn't allowed to make my own mistakes. And I listened. God help me, I listened. The hallway light cast long shadows between them. Agnes's breathing came quicker now. You think we enjoyed it? She asked. You think it was easy watching you throw away chances we built that company from nothing? We wanted you to have security, not struggle. Security. Layla's voice cracked on the word. You gave me a title, a salary, a house. You didn't give me a life. You took it. Every time I got close to something real, you found a flaw. Too young, too ambitious, too ordinary. And I let you. I canceled dates, I broke up with good men, I told myself it was for the business, for the family, for you. Agnes shook her head gradually. You're rewriting history. You chose the company. You chose the hours. No one held a gun to your head. Layla took another step forward. No gun. Just guilt. Every time I pushed back, you cried about how Dad's dream would die if I didn't step up. You reminded me how much you sacrificed. How the company was his legacy. How I'd be throwing it away if I walked away. So I stayed. I stayed until the legacy was all I had left. Silence fell, broken only by the low murmur of the television in the kitchen. Agnes's eyes glistened, but her voice stayed steady. You hate us for caring. I don't hate you, Layla said quietly. I hate what you turned me into. A woman who measures love by balance sheets, who can close $1 billion deal but can't keep a relationship alive for more than 6 months, who comes home to a mother who still thinks she can fix me by nagging. Agnes pressed a hand to her chest. I'm not nagging. I'm worried. You're 52. No partner. No children. What happens when I'm gone? Who takes care of you? Layla's throat tightened. I take care of myself. I always have. That's not enough, Agnes whispered. It's never been enough. The words hung there, raw and final. Layla turned away first. I'm going to bed. I have an early train tomorrow. Agnes didn't move. Run away again. Like always. Layla stopped at the foot of the stairs. She didn't look back. Maybe I am. Maybe that's all I know how to do anymore. She climbed the steps gradually, each one heavier than the last. Behind her, Agnes stood motionless in the hallway. Layla reached her room, closed the door softly, and sat on the edge of the bed. Her hands shook. She stared at the merger folder on her nightstand, the one thing that still made sense. Numbers didn't argue. Numbers didn't judge. Numbers didn't leave. Downstairs, the kitchen light stayed on for a long time. Agnes didn't go to her room. She stood in the hallway a while longer, then walked to the front door. She opened it quietly, stepped outside into the cool night air, and pulled the door shut behind her without a sound. She didn't take her purse, her phone, or her coat. She just walked. Morning light came too soon. Layla woke with a headache and the taste of last night's argument still in her mouth. She dressed quickly, checked her phone, no messages from Agnes, and went downstairs expecting the usual routine coffee brewing, Agnes already at the table with the newspaper. The kitchen was empty. No cup on the counter. No television murmur. Isabel Cruz, the housekeeper who had been with them for 12 years, was wiping the island, but her movements were slow, uncertain. Ms. Torres, Isabel said, when Layla appeared. Mrs. Torres isn't here. Layla froze. What do you mean I came at 6 like always? The bed in her room is made. No sign she slept in it. Her phone's on the nightstand. Purse is gone, but her coat is still in the closet. I checked the whole house, garage, backyard, basement. Nothing. Layla's stomach dropped. She pulled out her phone and dialed Agnes's number. Straight to voicemail. She tried again. Same result. She must have gone for a walk. Layla said more to herself than Isabel. She does that sometimes when she's upset. Isabel shook her head. Not at night. Not without her phone. And she didn't come back. Layla moved fast. She called the neighbors, first Mrs. Ellis, next door Mr. Patel across the street. No one had seen Agnes since the previous afternoon. She called Agnes's old bridge club friends. Nothing. She called the local diner where Agnes sometimes went for breakfast. No one remembered her. By 9, panic had set in. Layla drove to the nearest hospital emergency room, showed Agnes's photo to the intake nurse. Has a woman in her late 70s been brought in? Agnes Torres. Gray hair, brown eyes, about 5'4". The nurse checked the system. No one by that name. No matches fitting the description since yesterday. Layla tried 2 more hospitals. Same answer. She sat in the parking lot of the third one, hands gripping the wheel, breathing shallow. The merger train left in 4 hours. She couldn't miss it, not with partners already circling ready to walk if she delayed. She needed help. She called Colton. He picked up on the third ring. Layla. What's wrong? Mom's missing, she said in a low voice. She left last night after we argued. She didn't come back. Her phone's at home. I've checked hospitals, neighbors. Nothing. Silence on the line. Then Colton exhaled. Missing like ran off. She walked out. No coat, no phone. I don't know where she went. Colton's voice hardened. You two fought again, didn't you? Yes, Layla admitted. Badly. But that doesn't... It does, he cut in. You push her? She pushes back. She's probably at a friend's house cooling off. I called everyone. No one's seen her. Then give her space. She's not a child. She'll come home when she's ready. Colton. She's 78. She has high blood pressure. She could be hurt. Lost. I need you to come up. Or at least call around from your end. Another pause. I can't drop everything. I have meetings. The boys have school. My wife's out of town. And honestly, I'm not getting in the middle of this again. You two do this every few months. You yell, she sulks, she comes back. Let it play out. Layla's grip tightened. This isn't sulking. She's gone. Really gone. Then file a report. Police handle missing persons. I'm not driving 6 hours to play referee. Bro. Her voice broke. She's our mother. She's my mother too, Colton said quietly. And I've watched you two tear each other apart for years. I'm done being the buffer. Handle it yourself. You always do. The line went dead. Layla stared at the phone. Tears blurred the screen. She wiped them away, started the car, and drove to the police station downtown. The desk sergeant listened without much expression. Adult missing person. 78. Left voluntarily after an argument, yes, Layla said. But she has health issues. No phone, no money on her if she left her purse. He filled out the form slowly. We'll put out a description. Check hospitals again, shelters. But legally, she's an adult. If she wants to be gone, there's not much we can do unless there's evidence of foul play or incapacity. Layla left the station feeling hollow. She drove home, mind racing. Isabel met her at the door, eyes red. Anything? Isabel asked. Nothing. Layla sank onto the couch. I need to find someone who can look harder. She searched online, found a private investigator with good reviews. Theodore Hale, former Portland PD detective, now private. She called. He answered on the first ring. Ms. Torres, I saw your message. Tell me what happened. Layla recounted the night, the argument, the empty house. Theodore listened without interrupting. Sounds like she left emotional, he said when she finished. No signs of struggle, no ransom, no note. Most likely voluntary. But at her age, we treat it seriously. I can start today. Check traffic cams near your neighborhood. Talk to cab companies, canvass the area. My rate's $200 an hour plus expenses. Minimum 3 days up front. Do it, Layla said without hesitation. Whatever it takes. Theodore paused. One more thing. If she's angry, she might not want to be found right away. Are you prepared for that? I just want her safe, Layla whispered. Understood. I'll be in touch tonight with an update. Layla hung up, stared at the wall. The merger train left in 3 hours. She had to go. The company depended on it. 200 employees depended on it. But her mother was gone. She packed a small bag, left instructions with Isabel to call if anything changed, and headed to the station. Theodore would search. The police would search. Colton wouldn't. Layla boarded the train alone, the merger folder heavy in her lap, her mind heavier still. The station platform was crowded, announcements overlapping in a constant hum. Layla arrived with minutes to spare, bag slung over her shoulder, merger folder tucked under her arm. Theodore had texted an update, no new leads yet, but he was checking cab records from last night. She stared at the message, thumb hovering over reply, then shoved the phone in her pocket. The train was boarding. She had to move. She pushed through the crowd toward the gate, eyes scanning for the platform number. That's when she saw them again, or perhaps for the first time in the chaos of the morning rush. A young woman sat on a bench near the edge, back straight despite the exhaustion in her posture. She cradled a small boy against her chest, rocking him gently as he fussed. The child's blue knit hat had slipped sideways. His little hands clutched her coat. They looked out of place amid the hurried commuters, too still, too quiet. Layla slowed. She recognized the woman from earlier that morning when she'd rushed past on her way to the hospital. The same dark hair falling loose, the same protective hold on the baby. Something twisted in Layla's chest, maybe the fresh ache from Colton's refusal, maybe the image of Agnes alone somewhere, cold and stubborn. She changed direction, walked over. The woman looked up, startled. I'm sorry, Layla said. I saw you earlier. Are you okay? The woman blinked, then offered a small, tired smile. We're fine. Just waiting. Layla glanced at the boy. He was awake now, big eyes fixed on her, thumb in his mouth. He's beautiful. How old? 1 year next month. The woman adjusted her hold. His name is Juniper. Juniper Navarro. Layla repeated gently, noticing the last name on the small tag sewn into the boy's blanket. And you, Ellie Navarro. Layla nodded. The boarding call sounded again, final warning. She should go. Instead, she asked, Do you have somewhere to stay tonight? Ellie's gaze dropped. Not yet. We were hoping something would come up. Layla reached into her coat pocket, pulled out the spare set of keys she always carried for the forest lodge. The metal felt cool against her palm. I have a place up in the Cascades. Big timber house, empty while I'm gone. Heat kitchen, stocked beds made. I'm leaving for 4 months, maybe longer. Stay there. No rent, no strings. Just take care of it. Ellie stared at the keys. You're serious? I am. Layla pressed them into her hand. My driver, Sean Black, will pick you up here in 10 minutes. He'll take you. Buy what you need. Groceries, diapers, clothes. Tell him anything you want. I'll cover it. Ellie's fingers closed around the keys slowly. Why are you doing this? Layla looked at Juniper, then back at Ellie. Because right now you need help. And I need to believe someone would do the same if my mother were ever in your place. Ellie's eyes filled. Thank you. I don't even know your name. Layla Torres. She pulled out her phone, texted Sean, pick up Ellie Navarro and her son at Platform 7 entrance. Lodge. Full supplies. Now. Sean replied instantly, On my way, Miss Torres. Layla looked at Ellie one last time. The lodge is safe. Linens in the closets, food in the pantry. Call Sean if anything comes up. He'll check in. Ellie nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. I'll take care of it. I promise. Layla gave a small smile, then turned toward the gate. The train whistle blew. She boarded at the last second, found her seat by the window, and watched the platform slide away as the cars pulled out. Ellie and Juniper stood there until the train disappeared around the bend. On board, Layla opened the merger folder. Pages of financials, projections, clauses. The numbers swam for a moment. She closed her eyes, saw Agnes's face from last night, hurt, angry, walking away. She saw Colton's voice on the phone, cold and final. She saw Ellie's grateful eyes, Juniper's tiny hand waving as the train left. The negotiations had already started via email during the ride. Partners in Seattle wanted revisions on the earnout structure. Layla typed replies, voice steady on calls, but her mind kept drifting. Theodore texted once, cab records show a ride from your neighborhood last night to a friend's address across town. Friend says she never arrived. Still checking. Layla stared at the message. No leads. No Agnes. The merger talks filled the hours. She argued percentages, pushed deadlines, countered demands. By the time the train reached Seattle, the first round was locked, preliminary agreement signed digitally. The real work would begin tomorrow, face-to-face in conference rooms, late nights, endless revisions. She checked into the hotel, dropped her bag, and sat on the bed. The room was quiet. Too quiet. She called Theodore. Any update? Friend confirmed she never showed. Cab driver remembers dropping her near the address, but no one saw her after. I'm pulling CCTV from the intersection tomorrow. Police are circulating flyers. We'll find her, Ms. Torres. Layla thanked him and hung up. She opened her laptop, pulled up the next set of documents. Work was the only thing that made sense right now. Work didn't disappear. Work didn't walk away without a word. She worked until her eyes burned, then lay back staring at the ceiling. The merger was moving forward. The company would survive. But the empty space where her mother should have been grew larger with every hour. 7 months passed in a blur of conference rooms, late-night revisions, and airport lounges. The merger closed bigger than projected, $3.2 billion in combined value. New markets opened, stock up 15% the day the ink dried. Layla had fought for every clause, every guarantee, every concession. Partners who once threatened to walk now called her brilliant. The board sent champagne. Employees cheered in the Portland office. Victory tasted like relief, but it didn't fill the hollow space that had grown inside her. Theodore Hale's updates had dwindled over time. First weekly, then monthly, then silence. No sightings, no credit card hits, no hospital admissions. The police had moved the case to inactive voluntary adult disappearance, no foul play. Colton had stopped answering her calls after the 3rd month. She had stopped trying. Layla flew home alone. No welcome party. No family waiting. She rented a car at the airport, drove straight past the West Hills house, and headed east toward the Cascades. The Forest Lodge had been on her mind the entire flight. Ellie and Juniper had been there all this time. Sean checked in every few weeks with photos of the boy growing. The house maintained Ellie working part-time at a local market. Layla had never visited, never called. The lodge was a favor, not a home. The road narrowed as she climbed pines, closing in on both sides. Snow dusted the shoulders even though spring had started in the valley. She turned onto the private drive, gravel crunching under tires. The lodge appeared through the trees, timber beams glowing in the late afternoon light, smoke curling from the chimney windows, warm and lit. She parked, stepped out, and walked up the porch steps. The front door opened before she knocked. Ellie stood there, apron dusted with flower, Juniper balanced on her hip. The boy was bigger now. Toddler, sturdy, dark curls, wild, grinning at the stranger. Ms. Torres, Ellie said, eyes wide. You're back. Layla managed a nod. I wanted to check on things. See how you're doing. Ellie stepped aside. Come in. Please. The interior smelled of cinnamon and wood smoke. Toys littered the rug in front of the fireplace. A half-finished puzzle spread across the coffee table. Everything looked lived in, cared for. Layla's chest tightened. She hadn't expected it to feel like a home. Ellie set Juniper down. He toddled toward Layla, arms out. She knelt instinctively, let him grab her fingers. He's grown so much, she said gently. He has, Ellie agreed. He calls this place home now, and he has a grandma. Layla looked up. A grandma? Ellie hesitated, then gestured toward the back sunroom. She's out there. With the birds. Come see. Layla followed, heart suddenly loud in her ears. Through the glass doors she saw an elderly woman in a cardigan sitting on the porch swing, scattering seeds for finches. Gray hair in a neat bun. Familiar profile. The swing creaked gently as the woman turned. Agnes. Layla stopped breathing. Agnes looked up, smiled politely, the smile one gives a visitor. Hello, dear. Are you a friend of Ellie's? Layla's knees weakened. She gripped the doorframe. Mom. Agnes tilted her head. I'm sorry. Do we know each other? The words landed like a slap. Layla stepped forward slowly. It's me. Layla. Your daughter. Agnes studied her face for a long moment, brow furrowed in concentration. Then she shook her head gently. I'm afraid I don't recall, but you're very welcome here. Would you like tea? Ellie makes wonderful chamomile. Layla's vision blurred. She turned to Ellie, voice barely above a whisper. How long has she been here? Ellie's expression crumpled. Since about a week after you left. I found her wandering near the bridge down the road. She was confused, repeating that she was looking for the house with the big pines. I brought her here. She recognized the place, immediately said she and her husband used to come here years ago. She cried when she walked in. Layla stared at Agnes, who had gone back to feeding the birds, humming in a hushed tone. She doesn't know me. Layla said, more statement than question. Ellie shook her head. She remembers things from a long time ago. Her husband, the company he built, trips they took. But the last 30 years, nothing. No daughter, no arguments, no company. She thinks she's still in her 40s. She calls Juniper her grandson. She cooks for us, reads to him, sings old songs. She's happy here. Layla walked out onto the porch. Agnes looked up again, smile unchanged. You look familiar, dear. Have we met before? Layla knelt beside the swing. A long time ago. I'm Layla. Agnes patted her hand. What a lovely name. Sit with me. The birds are singing tonight. Layla sat. Agnes resumed humming. Juniper climbed into her lap, content. Ellie watched from the doorway, eyes shining. Layla stayed until dusk. Agnes told stories about dances in the city, about building a life from scratch, about a daughter she couldn't quite place. Layla listened, throat-tight, tears silent on her cheeks. When the sky darkened, Ellie brought blankets. She goes to bed early. I'll show you the guest room if you want to stay. Layla shook her head. I can't. Not tonight. She stood. Agnes reached up, touched her cheek. Come back soon, dear. We'll have tea. Layla nodded, unable to speak. She hugged Juniper goodbye. He clung to her leg, then walked to the car. The drive down the mountain was silent. She didn't cry until the lodge lights disappeared in the rearview mirror. Layla drove back to the city in silence, the forest road unrolling behind her like a thread she was choosing to cut. She parked at the West Hills house after midnight. The lights were off. Isabel had left for the night. The place felt larger than ever, empty rooms, cold air echoes of conversations that no longer had answers. She sat in the dark living room, phone in hand. Theodore had texted earlier, still no new leads, but he would keep monitoring. She didn't reply. There was no point. Agnes wasn't missing anymore. She was found. And she didn't know who Layla was. The next morning, Layla called a neurologist she knew through business contacts, Dr. Elena Ramirez, specialist in memory disorders at OHSU. She explained the situation over the phone: sudden onset selective amnesia, recognition of old places but not recent family. Dr. Ramirez listened carefully. Sounds like a transient ischemic attack mini-stroke, she said. Common in her age group. It can wipe out recent memory while sparing older recollections. She may never regain the last decades. Therapy, medication, familiar routines can help stabilize, but full recovery is rare. Layla asked the next question under her breath. If I don't bring her back, if she stays where she is, what happens? A pause. Without consistent medical follow-up, risk of another event increases. Vascular issues progress. She could decline faster. But if she's happy, safe, cared for, forcing her into a new environment might cause agitation, confusion, even accelerate deterioration. Layla thanked her and hung up. She stared at the wall. Agnes was happy at the lodge. She had purpose feeding Juniper, telling stories, tending the birds. She had no memory of the arguments, the guilt, the years of tension. She had no memory of Layla at all. Layla drove back up the mountain 2 days later. Ellie met her at the door, Juniper asleep in her arms. She's in the kitchen, Ellie said gently, making pancakes. She thinks it's Sunday. Layla followed her inside. Agnes stood at the stove, apron tied neatly, humming as she flipped batter. She turned, smiled, the same polite smile. Good morning, dear. You came back. Would you like breakfast? Layla swallowed. Mama, it's Layla, your daughter. Agnes frowned slightly, as if trying to place a face from a dream. Layla. Yes, that name feels familiar, but I'm sorry, I can't quite remember. Were we friends once? Layla's voice cracked. We were more than friends. I'm your daughter. We lived together. We fought. A lot. Agnes set the spatula down. Fought? I don't remember fighting. I remember love. My husband, the company we built, trips to the coast. But everything after, it's like fog. I'm happy here. Ellie is kind. Juniper calls me Grandma. It feels right. Layla looked at Ellie. How did this happen? Exactly. Ellie sat at the table, Juniper stirring in her lap. After you left, I walked to the river path one afternoon. She was standing on the bridge looking lost. She asked if this was the house with the big trees. I said yes. She cried when she saw the lodge, said it was her favorite place. She walked in like she belonged. I couldn't turn her away. She's been here since. She cooks, gardens, watches Juniper when I work. She's gentle. She's content. Layla stared at Agnes, who had gone back to the stove, humming again. She doesn't need me, Layla said quietly. Ellie shook her head. She doesn't remember needing anyone else. But she's safe. I've been careful. I take her to the local clinic for checkups. They say her vitals are stable. No new incidents. Layla walked to the window. Pines stretched forever. I thought I'd bring her home. Get her treatment. Help her remember. You could try, Ellie said. But moving her, it might confuse her more. The doctor warned me about that. Layla turned. I'm not moving her. Ellie's eyes widened. You're leaving her here. Yes. The word came out steady. She's happy. She has you. She has Juniper. She doesn't know what she lost. And I can't keep hurting her by reminding her of things she can't fix. Ellie reached out, touched Layla's arm. You're sure? Layla looked at Agnes, who was now plating pancakes, smiling at Juniper as he woke, and clapped. I'm sure. She stayed for lunch. Agnes chatted about recipes from the old days, asked Layla if she liked cinnamon. Layla answered politely like a guest. When it was time to go, Agnes hugged her, warm, brief, without recognition. Come back anytime, dear, Agnes said. We'll have tea. Layla nodded. I will. She didn't. Back in Portland, she called Colton one last time. She's alive, Layla said when he answered. She's at the lodge. She doesn't remember me. Or you. Or anything recent. Colton exhaled. Jesus. What are you going to do? Nothing, Layla said. She's staying there, with the woman I helped. And the boy. They're her family now. Colton was quiet. You're not bringing her home, no. It would hurt her more. And honestly, I don't know if I can handle seeing her look at me like a stranger every day. Another pause. I get it. But I'm not going to visit either. I can't. Not after everything. I know, Layla said. We're done. All of us. She hung up. Colton never called again. Months later, Theodore closed the file. No charges. No follow-up needed. Layla paid his final invoice and filed the papers away. The house stayed quiet. Isabel came and went. The company grew new acquisitions, bigger offices, more staff. Layla worked longer hours. She didn't date. She didn't travel for pleasure. She visited the lodge once more 6 months after the first return, stood at the tree line, watched Agnes push Juniper on the swing, heard laughter drift through the pines. She didn't go closer. She turned and left. Agnes never remembered. Her health held for a while, then slowly declined, no major stroke, but small slips, forgetfulness compounding. Ellie stayed. She got a full-time job in town, hired help for the lodge. Juniper grew up calling Agnes Grandma. They were a small, steady family. Layla never married, never had children. The company thrived, but the victory felt thin. She lived alone in the big house, ate alone, worked alone. Some nights she sat on the porch, looked at the city lights, and wondered if kindness had saved anyone, or if it had only delayed the inevitable. She learned that love, once broken too deeply, doesn't always heal. That forgiveness isn't owed, and sometimes cutting the thread is the only mercy left. That a life built on duty can stand tall, but it stands empty. And in the quiet hours, she accepted it. Not with peace, but with the kind of silence that no longer expects an answer. If you've made it to the end of this story, thank you for staying with me through every twist and heartbreak. This tale isn't about happy endings. It's about the hard truths we sometimes have to face, that our choices, even the ones made with the best intentions, can change lives in ways we never see coming. Sometimes the greatest kindness is knowing when to step back, and the deepest lesson is that family isn't always blood. It's the people who show up when it matters most, and sometimes it's the courage to let go, so others can find their peace. Layla's story reminds us, don't wait until it's too late to say what needs to be said, but also don't force healing where wounds run too deep. Cherish the people you have today, because tomorrow isn't promised. Thank you so much for listening, for feeling this with me. I truly appreciate every one of you who takes the time to join these journeys on Revenge Blaze. Wishing you all good health, endless luck, strong families, and the wisdom to choose kindness even when it hurts. If this story touched you, moved you, or made you think, please hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. Drop a comment below. What did this story teach you? Share your thoughts, your own family lessons, or even ideas for future stories. Your words help me shape the next tales, making them deeper, truer, and more meaningful. And if you know someone who needs to hear a story like this, someone wrestling with family pain, regret, or the weight of choices, please share this video with them. Let's spread these lessons further, one viewer at a time. Thank you again. Stay kind to yourselves and each other. See you in the next story. Don't go anywhere, because the next one is going to be just as powerful.